Hello and welcome to I Can't Believe This Got Greenlit, a show where we discuss movies from our childhood, our nostalgia from watching them as kids, how they got made, and our experiences rewatching them as adults. I'm one of your hosts, Nick Warner, and joining me as always, Matthew Pelton.
Nicholas!
Dude, we're back.
We're back!
In the studio today, baby.
It feels good. Now, I want to immediately get into it.
Yeah.
Because we're not back alone.
We're not back alone.
No.
I'm pumped for our guest today.
We have a guest that's been on our list since day one of this show.
Day one.
You want to introduce her? The one and only?
The one and only Fallon Heelen is here today.
Woo!
Welcome to the show.
I'm so excited.
We are pumped to have you on.
I feel like I've been spiritually on movie podcasts in my head, like for like a long time now, like in the shower, like talking about what I would say.
Oh, 100%.
So I'm excited to do it for real.
I got to be honest, it feels like you've been on this show before.
Yeah.
This is like such a Fallon show.
I agree.
Thank you.
We initially kind of bonded, I think, over podcasts.
Yes.
About Podcast The Ride and Blank Check. Yeah. And we've talked a lot about podcasts, so it's nice to have you on our show to talk today about a movie that I'm a little nervous to talk about because I'm having trouble trying to figure out if I actually like this movie or not. And I don't have strong opinions either way. And I think usually what happens on the show is I'll come in with an opinion, and most of the time it stays the same, but there's a rare occasion where I come in and it's swayed. And by the end I'm like, yeah, this movie actually rules, or this movie actually sucks.
That's true. We've had a couple where Nick will come in and be like, I love this. And then
by the end I'm just
every
like,
flaw.
Oh,
And Nick's like, I'm
wow.
sorry.
Yeah, I'm wrong. But today we are talking about the 2006 movie, The Pink Panther, the one with Steve Martin.
Yes.
And I'm nervous. But Fallon, I want to ask you, because you're a very special guest today, why did you pick this movie? Because this is your pick. Do you have any nostalgia behind it? Do you have any childhood stories? Anything revolving around this movie? Let's hear it.
100%. So I'm so glad that you say that you're willing to be swayed because this is about to be a passionate defense. Because you said like name a couple of movies that you'd be willing to do, and I said one where it's like it's a special place in my heart but bad, which is The Master of Disguise. I might make you guys do it at another point.
No.
And then I did one
Don't
that's
do
a
this
special
to us.
place in my heart, which I think is gold. I think it holds up.
Yeah.
So I really like this movie. I rewatched it relatively recently, and then this just gave me an excuse to like watch it again.
So you watched it before you were going to be on this show?
Yes. So I watched it growing up, but then I revisit it fairly regularly.
Yeah.
How many times do you think you've seen this movie? Be honest.
I don't know, because it's hard when you watch stuff as a kid. It all sort of blurs
Yeah,
together, but
that's fair.
probably like 10 times throughout my entire life. Probably.
So it's double digits.
Yes, I know it very well. I wrote down some of my favorite quotes as if I needed to remember them, but I quote them very regularly.
That's fair. Can I be 100%?
Yes.
I've seen this probably close to 15 times.
What the
So you win then. And you have the audacity to say you
up
don't
there.
know if you
No,
like
wait.
it.
This has changed everything. You got to explain this immediately.
Okay, so for me as a kid, my brother and I kind of found this movie just on like the VOD hunt, right?
Okay.
So we just every so often my family would go, yeah, pick a movie on VOD, we'll rent it and we'll kind of watch it, whatever. And we found this movie. It was one of those where kind of everyone could enjoy it. It's this, slapstick
It was?
kind of movie. Yeah, I guess. And
No comment.
we watched this
we'll get
movie,
to that.
and then my brother and I just kind of absolutely loved it. And then we just kept rewatching it. I
Really?
think there's a couple of scenes in here that like really got to me, but it's really just because of like the screwball slapstick, just nonsensical comedy that happens throughout this entire film, like from beginning to end. That we
It's
were just like
nonstop.
our kid brains were like yes, and then we just kept watching it over and over. And then when we found out there was a sequel,
I don't remember
it
it
was
at all.
game over. It was game over. We rewatched the sequel
You
like
watched the
10
sequel?
times. Oh yeah,
I couldn't tell you what happens in it.
so many times.
I found out there's a sequel this morning.
Oh
I didn't
no,
even know
no,
that existed.
no! The first and second movie like ring very true in my mind.
What?
Yeah, big time.
I'm stunned.
Absolutely.
I'm stunned
Yeah.
at both of you.
Have you seen this movie, Fallon?
Okay, no.
Okay,
Not prior to this.
Not prior to this.
That's what I was expecting.
But I was very much like a Boomerang kid.
yeah.
So I've seen like a lot of the old, like classic Pink Panther stuff.
Yes.
So I'm a Pink
so have
Panther
I.
guy, just I've never seen the
You're
movie.
coming at it from such a different perspective, so I cannot wait to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, because I'm someone who liked the original show that when there was an actual Panther, which we'll get into that too. See, I have a very different perspective on this.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't even know Steve Martin. I knew nothing about this.
That's fine. I think it's fair. I also watched the like animated show growing
you
up.
did?
Yeah. And
Much better.
The funny thing is I know nothing about that. To me, the Pink Panther is this movie.
Yeah, that's
it's
fair.
This movie and the saxophone song that they play at school concerts.
Yeah.
That's like literally all that I have. Like I know that it's based on a cartoon, but I don't know anything
We
about
have
it.
to fix that immediately.
Right. For me, it was the two bits that really like I think brought my brother and I back over and over.
Sure.
Were the trainer that trains,
Okay.
Quoted all the time with my dad.
classic, and then the hamburger scene.
Really?
And yeah. I think just because of how extensive it is, my brother and I
Yes,
would
it
just
is.
like latched onto that, and we just continuously brought that up, and just kept like rewatching it for that specific scene.
Okay.
It was great.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could see those two
Yeah.
being somewhat worthy of being memorable to a child.
And exactly, and then the
Yeah.
rest of it I think is literally just played for children, and then rewatching it, we'll get into it.
Oh, yeah.
Going into the production of this movie, not a whole lot. It seemed like it was a fairly smooth production. Nothing too crazy. I mean, obviously you have Steve Martin, who's a legend in
Yes.
comedy, and I will say though, I didn't know that this movie was directed by Sean Levy.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
I've realized how in love I am with Sean Levy's work.
Yeah,
like,
his work,
Just,
yeah.
like piece by piece, because he also did Stranger Things and also did Night at the Museum, and I
Oh, he
didn't realize
did?
Mhm.
that I love all of his stuff, and I just never put it together.
I didn't
Yeah.
know he did those.
He's the director of Stranger Things. That's like his big.
Oh.
Or
Yeah.
one of.
Well, one of
Along
one
with
of
the
many.
Duffers.
Yeah, yeah,
That's,
yeah.
I knew it was like the
Yeah.
brothers, Duffer brothers.
I'm pretty sure he's like the main producer. I know he's directed a couple
okay.
episodes. I'm pretty sure Sean Levy's the main producer.
Yeah, him. Yeah.
Yeah. But he's the director of Cheaper by the Dozen, Night at the Museum, Free Guy, the
Ryan Reynolds
movie, Stranger Things, and he's I think working with Ryan Reynolds on a lot of upcoming projects, and he's worked in recent past with him.
Okay.
So
So he's a pretty big name.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you wouldn't realize it because I
No.
just don't think that we talk about him enough, considering what classics he's made.
Yeah.
That is true.
He's
He's got
kind
a
of-
name that's like well known.
Night at the Museum, I feel like is a classic for our age group.
Ah,
I would
absolutely.
say,
That's
yeah.
on the Greenlit list.
Mhm.
That
That's
will
what I'm
eventually
saying.
be covered.
Is like I don't know. He doesn't
Invite
get
me on
talked
for
about.
Battle at the Smithsonian.
Please, that'd be incredible.
Consider it done.
Let's
We're
absolutely
shaking
do
on it.
it. Yeah. So the screenplay was written by Len Blum, who also wrote, drum roll please, Over the Hedge.
Oh,
Same
Greenlit
person,
alum.
Greenlit alum.
He's back.
Which also I didn't know this. Over the Hedge came out the same year. So this
Really?
dude,
Big
like,
year for him.
or girl, I don't know what. But this person had two movies come out in the same year, and we'll get to why because there is
okay.
something interesting.
Now, Nick, you might have to remind me. Did I like Over the Hedge?
You loved Over
I
the
did?
Hedge.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
At least I think. Go listen to the episode. I don't know.
Yeah, summer. That's a little plug for summer sessions. Go listen to Over the Hedge.
No, Over the Hedge was regular season.
It was.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
Maybe it
I'm a fake
wasn't.
fan.
I don't actually know. We'll find out. No, I'm pretty sure it was
It was?
regular. Yeah. I don't know, man. It's been a while. But also, weirdly, Pan's Labyrinth was the same year. So if you think about it, it's this
That's
movie, Pan's Labyrinth and Over the Hedge, all in the
Again,
same.
all of equal
year.
quality.
Yeah. All
Mhm.
Greenlit movies, all
Yeah,
equal
all
quality.
brilliant.
Totally.
Yeah.
This movie had an $80 million budget, and it
Ooh.
grossed $161 million. So
Okay.
if you do our
Double the
calculation,
profit.
you made $1 million.
Technically made a
but
profit.
Yeah, it did make a profit, kind of. Yes, principal photography began May 10th. We're getting into the why it came out.
Okay.
May 10th, 2004,
Oh.
and was set to release August 5th of 2005, but was pushed back to February 10th, 2006, after Sony expressed dissatisfaction with the film's raunchy tone.
Oh.
It was heavily edited, and key scenes were reshot to keep it family friendly. Now,
Really?
I wish I could see the full Steve Martin version of this movie.
the full
100%.
Yeah.
R-rated Steve
The
Martin.
Because
R-rated
version.
Steve Martin.
look at what they left in.
I know.
That's
That's my
exactly right.
point.
His whole his coworker assistant girl,
Mhm.
that's still in the movie. Like
Yeah.
that's true. You know, there's like an X-rated version of this out there.
I'm
Yeah.
also willing to bet that he probably improvised, and there's probably stuff that they can't
100%.
use. I don't know.
Yeah.
Have you ever talked about how there's like different cuts of Mrs. Doubtfire floating around there?
There
somewhere?
are?
Well, there can be. There's like literally like 300 rolls of
Yeah.
like, film somewhere where they could make a PG-13 cut, an R cut, just based on because they let him go crazy.
Oh, he just said.
and I
whatever
would
he
be
wanted.
willing to bet that Steve Martin would probably be the same way.
See, I
100%.
didn't know that, but I know that someone recently came out and was like, we have enough footage of Robin Williams on Mrs. Doubtfire that we can make an entire documentary about like his life.
That's
just
wild.
from that
Just from
movie.
Mrs.
I would
Doubtfire.
love that.
Yeah. It's
yeah,
super cool.
honestly, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. And yeah, so to date, This film has sold $23 million in DVD copies, which, made a profit.
There it is. Okay.
Yeah, and with myself contributing to at least 10 of those dollars. Because
10
we
million
owned
of those dollars.
10 million of those 23 million.
Nick was obsessed with this DVD
loved
as a
it
kid.
so much. Yes, and so, funny enough, and not surprisingly, also, Steve Martin was paid a hefty $20 million of the $80 million budget. So exactly 1/4 of the budget went to him.
I think I accept that. I don't know. My brain's digesting that. Part of me is like, yeah, that makes sense. But also, does it? I don't know.
20 million? That's
20
like
mil.
RDJ money.
Yeah, it's crazy for this.
Do we know how much Beyonce got paid? We need to talk
that's a
about her
good
involvement.
Definitely
question.
not as much, because I don't think she
Yeah,
was as much of a
as
star
big,
in
yeah.
2006, at least as she is now.
Yeah.
Because I know she got paid a boatload for Lion King. That's
sure.
Yeah, for the Lion
Yeah.
King remake in 2019. I
That was
say.
pre-pandemic. Yeah,
Yeah.
she was way bigger then.
Right. And yes, and my final note, you already spoiled it a little bit, but yeah, Beyonce is a co-star in this movie.
She is.
Which
I
is
did not
I
know.
have
crazy, and I didn't-
so many thoughts on that.
And you know what? I didn't realize it was her until the credits rolled. Embarrassingly
What?
enough, I had
I
no
caught
idea.
it like halfway through.
I did not have any sort of idea, and then by the
Interesting.
end, I was like, "Oh,
Wait.
Beyonce, like that one?"
That's really funny to me, especially because she was playing a pop star
Yeah,
as well.
Nick.
I know,
I
dude.
don't even
I don't
listen
know
to
what
that
happened.
music.
I
I
don't
knew it
know
was
what
Beyonce.
happened. I just whatever. It's fine.
Though, did you guys catch what her credit was?
No.
Was it her full name?
Yeah, it was like Beyonce something.
Knowles.
There it is.
Yeah.
I was shocked.
Oh yeah, that's why I was like, wait, like Beyonce,
Like Beyonce,
a pop
Beyonce?
star? Yeah. Yeah, I didn't realize. Yeah, that's all I have on plot. Not plot. Production.
Production?
That's, nothing too crazy.
I
know-
took like a couple notes, but it's more so just like what ifs of
Yeah.
like who was almost
are always
cast.
interesting.
Yeah, those
though.
are fun.
Let me see.
It's incredible.
So-
I love when guests come in with something like more than just themselves. It's the best.
Oh, thank you.
You guess it's
So-
more work than I do.
Yeah.
Oh, so up for the role of Crusoe was also possibly Mike Myers.
Oh my god.
Of course
Which
he was.
makes a lot of sense.
A lot of sense.
Chris Tucker as
Okay.
well.
Okay.
Which could have been
I
interesting.
can see that.
You know his little buddy there, Ponton?
Yes.
His little French buddy was almost going to be a Chinese assistant, Jackie Chan, and then they realized,
Yes.
hey, maybe not a great idea.
I read
Probably
that.
not
Yeah,
the best
yeah.
idea. Yeah.
And I think
Happy they
I'm
didn't do
glad that
that.
they came around to that. There was a couple of other people that were rumored, but that's just like a few people that were tossed around. They also
Okay.
like were throwing around like more serious actors, I think, for like the villain character. And I just
Really?
think it's fun. I think no one
Jack
like
Nicholson.
no one huge. But it was funny to hear.
Some big
Robin
dramatic.
Williams was also up for Steve Martin's character.
Oh, okay. That would have been
Discussed.
cool.
Which
Yeah.
makes sense.
But I definitely think they went the right way. Kevin Spacey, that's crazy.
Ooh.
Steve Martin's character?
For Dreyfus.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh.
That
That
makes
makes sense actually.
That makes
It
that
makes
makes
sense,
more
but I think it
sense.
would have made it
But
worse.
there would have been no like humor in it. I think he
No,
would have just
yeah,
been
yeah.
just genuinely villainous, and I think
It's a
the
drama.
ending where he just like gets dragged around would have been so much better.
Yeah, true. Especially in
Well,
retrospect.
right,
You know,
sure.
it would have been the greatest ending to a movie ever.
I also read about this movie receiving Razzies. If you guys are
Yes,
familiar
we
with the
love
Razzies.
Razzies on this show. This
Yeah.
is literally, I can't believe this got greenlit. The Razzies. Yes.
Kristen Chenoweth won a Razzie
Are you
for
serious?
worst like supporting
She
performer.
won one?
I thought she was fine.
She was fine.
She was over the top. I feel like it was warranted.
Who was she again?
Also, I was gonna say, how often is she in the movie?
She
to
the
be-
assistant?
She's
warranted
the
in the
blonde one
Razzies.
that discovers that Bijou is dead.
Oh,
Yeah, but
okay.
Heard
wasn't
him
she-
get shot.
Yeah.
How much was she? Wasn't she in the movie for like 5 minutes?
Literally
If
5 minutes. And I
that,
thought that
yeah.
What?
she understood the assignment. She knew that it
Yeah.
was canon, I think.
And she won the Razzie?
Yeah.
That makes no
Or
sense.
at
kinda
least
messed
got
up.
nominated. At least
Yeah,
got
yeah.
nominated. And then also Steve Martin was up for worst accent, which I just think that just shows that they don't understand the film.
Not at all.
Because clearly
Because
it wasn't supposed to be good.
It was also like incredible. Like it was so fun.
It did the job.
Yeah.
And Bill Good. Sorry.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, the last time I think we talked about Razzies, because I know a couple shows, a couple movies on this show have gotten nominated. But I think
that's
I think the
surprising.
one that stands out to me most was the kid in The Cat in the Hat, the little boy. The
Yo,
kid.
I do remember
That's
that.
just mean.
Yeah,
no,
we said the
he
same thing.
created a category because of how bad
the kid
like
was.
they named a category after him.
Oh my god.
They were like the Spencer Brosnan
Yeah.
or whatever his name was. Branson.
And he was like
Is that
8.
the same kid that's like in 2.5 Men?
I'm not sure.
No.
Not sure
I don't
either.
know, but
Yeah.
I know after that performance,
That's really
they
upsetting.
gave him the award and they were like, yeah, this is the Spencer Brandt, whatever his last name is, award now from here on out.
Isn't that so wrong?
Oh my god.
I feel
It's
so
so-
bad for
Was
that
he a
kid.
good sport about it?
I have no idea because he
don't
was a
know.
kid.
That's really
That's horrible.
sad.
The Razzies are
Oh, the
so
Razzies.
funny.
Oh, the Razzies.
I love them. Yeah, and we talked about this briefly before the show, but Fallon, you came in with a game for us?
I
Is
did
that
have an
right?
game. Did you want to jump
Let's
into
do that now.
Yes.
That sounds so
Okay,
fun.
So I may or may not have stole it from Mr. Sunday Movies.
That's okay,
we're
so
gonna
it's-
be-
so do
Huge
we.
shout out. Me and Fallon are huge fans of Mr. Sunday Movies.
Yeah,
Yes.
Check them
so
out.
I went on Rotten Tomatoes, which
Uh-huh.
is interesting experience for me. I feel like I don't look at it a lot because I don't trust it. I don't know
I
if
don't
that's
either.
a dialogue
Yeah, I
that I
agree.
can mention
No.
on here.
No, I fully don't.
Because the
Yeah.
critics and the audience never agree.
No,
and
never.
Usually I feel like I agree with the audience score, but then sometimes I'm furious. So I don't know. So they never line up. So I got some quotes for us from Rotten scores of both this film, The Pink Panther, and also Joker.
Great.
And we can
I
guess
love
which
it.
is
Two
which.
very similar films.
I think
Let's do
you
it.
guys will do pretty well.
I hope.
I know
So
it's
our
really
first
embarrassing
one,
for us, Nick.
James Crute of Stuff.com says,
My
Oh, I thought
favorite
that was the
website.
quote.
yeah.
I
James
was like,
Crute.
Yeah.
Pink Panther?
He says lethargic, limp, and lackluster.
Oh.
Pink Panther. That's my
Oh,
guess.
wait, can I hear it again?
That's my guess.
Lethargic, limp, and lackluster.
Lackluster. Why would he have so much anticipation for a Pink Panther movie?
Pink Panther.
I think I have to say Pink Panther too. I think it's Pink
Yes,
Panther.
it was Pink Panther.
Yes. Boom. 1 for 1. Okay,
Let's go.
we got this. We got
We
this.
have another one, which is, what is the point?
Oh, that could
Joker.
be either.
We live in a society. Joker.
Oh, you know what? I'm gonna say Joker too.
That was actually the Pink Panther.
Ah.
Damn.
Dang. That's crazy.
Here's one as well.
Okay.
Let me pick a good one. The more I
Joker.
watched it, the more I disliked it. Just did not work for me. I hate this movie.
Joker.
I think it's gotta be Joker. I think you wouldn't watch Pink Panther more than once, unless you're a Warner.
Yeah.
It was Joker.
Oh,
Yes.
Let's go. That's also happened to me with Joker. The more I watched it, the more I did not like it.
I think I only saw it the one time because
Me
I was
too, and
like,
I
not
loved
for
it.
not for me. I think I realized it's too dark for me.
Too dark.
Yeah.
Here's one. This was so stupid to me. Absolute utter nonsense.
See, that could go
That could
either
go
way.
either way. That's
It could go
impossible.
either way. I'm gonna say Pink Panther. I'm gonna say Pink Panther. Actually, if you're gonna say Pink Panther, I'm gonna say Joker.
Okay, I'm sticking with
We're
Pink
gonna split
Panther.
the vote.
Okay, because it really could be either.
It
Yeah,
really could
that's
be
why
either.
we're
The thing
splitting.
is, this is actually a curveball. That was for Hereditary.
Oh my God.
It was.
That was, you know
That
what? I
just
was gonna
shows
say
you
Hereditary,
how-
and then no.
Yeah, how little
That's Hereditary.
how little these how weight that these have.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you
yeah.
can't
That's
even
so
tell.
insanely vague that it can
It's
be applied
ridiculous.
to literally any movie.
Yeah.
Like you could have said Moana, and I would
Please
have been
don't
like,
like the psychedelic toad.
yeah.
Exactly. And then here's just one for Pink Panther that I thought was kind of funny and sad.
It's okay.
The most that can be said for this strenuously bland reconstitution is that Steve Martin was clearly alive during filming, but just how alive, unfortunately, is the issue.
Oh.
Oh, that's
crazy.
brutal.
That all
That's
that
a
you can
brutal
say is
one.
that the lead actor was present.
Yeah.
He was definitely on set.
Yeah.
It's also weird because I don't know if anyone has it in their notes, but I saw that Steve Martin technically has a writing credit on this movie.
Oh, really?
That would
Yeah.
make sense.
Is it because
That
he
makes
improvs so
well,
much?
I was
Probably.
reading an article that they interviewed Beyonce. And it was interesting because it was from the early 2000s. So like they called her Bootylicious in the interview. And
Sick.
they were talking to Beyonce, and she was saying how she thought it was so fascinating how Steve Martin would just like whip out a computer and just like start writing and like tweaking scenes
Oh, there you go.
actively. So I guess so.
He was on set. He was just changing stuff.
It would also just
Huh.
make sense as like a comedic improviser that he probably was just doing that as well.
Yeah, and I have a feeling because it's Steve Martin, so he's probably adding good stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I would assume. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Though again, I do want to see the X-rated version of this.
Yeah,
Really
me
bad.
too.
Yeah.
I'm sad. I really don't like the idea of studio notes. It's so sad. Like I get it and I know why that has to
that's a
exist.
thing.
But it like for instances like this and other movies that end up being really bad and you can tell. I'm not gonna name
Yeah, you
names,
can tell
but
studio
recent Marvel
interference.
movies.
I was gonna say, but the superhero genre, yeah.
No, but it's just sad to see because you know that like the director definitely didn't mean to make a movie like this, and then it like ends up being this thing where people make fun of it, and a lot of people don't realize that it's not
It's not even the director's fault.
It's not even in the script. It's just like the studio being like, nah, we don't think that the market needs this right now.
Well, you have like the famous like DC examples, like Justice League, where the director got like fired midway through, got a whole new person to come in, and then Suicide Squad too. The director's like, yeah, that's not my movie. That's not even close to what I wrote. That's not close to what I directed.
But I feel like this falls into the category more so of the Scooby-Doo movie, where James Gunn wrote. Like, if you're familiar with
my God, yeah,
this
I forgot
film,
James Gunn wrote.
James Gunn wrote it, and it was more adult, which you can tell in the low-cut tops in that film.
Absolutely, definitely.
But I feel like this falls more into that category of like early 2000s, wasn't supposed to be a kids movie, but ended up being a kids movie anyway. And that's how we got our hands on them. So I'm really curious if they came out as adult movies, what audience they would have found. Because it didn't seem like the adults were really vibing with this flick. Yeah. But as kids, we really liked it. But would we have seen it?
True. That's and you know what? You were just explaining this so perfectly. And it brought me back to a conversation we had with one Ron Mita, the creator of Robots, the movie. And we talked to him in one of our past episodes, and he basically described exactly what you're talking about.
Wow.
Of like that film, the way he conceptualized it was supposed to be like for adults and very dark. And then you like kind of passed it along. The studio was like, we're going to make it a full kids film, and it is what it is today. But it's crazy that like now like we saw it, and then obviously the adults didn't see that it was kind of meant for, or maybe not because it was still going to be an animated film, but still, I mean, a darker animated film.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like Blade Runner-esque.
Exactly.
I feel like you also don't see that now. You mostly see like maybe R-rated movies being tailored for PG-13 just for finance-wise.
Oh,
right.
So it's
yeah,
really weird
definitely.
to see like just like the hard turn from adult to child audiences.
Child.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, with all of that said, I'd like to move on to plot. Now, this is one of those movies where
I'm so nervous.
I feel like the plot is really simple, and it's because it's a comedy, it's so simple that it fills an hour and a half with just bits.
Yeah.
So it's one of those where it's kind of hard for
and
me.
say that I disagree with the plot being that simple. Because one of the first notes I wrote was that I do feel like to write a mystery, like whether it be a book or a movie, it takes a level of competency. It makes me a little nervous, the thought of writing mysteries, is because you have to lay all the clues.
Yeah, that's true. You almost have to work backwards.
I think that this mystery is decent. Yeah. I think that it's pretty good. It shows like a decent amount of thought. I don't know. I just
I'll
thought
be
that
so real. I 100% disagree with that.
Really?
I do.
I don't know. Maybe it's just I'm a big dum-dum. I don't like I was saying last night that like some of the later James Bond movies confuse me. I like get a little bit lost. Like I was watching The Dark Knight last night and I got most of it, but like sometimes they talk about moving money around and then I'm like,
what's
oh,
happening?
Like, and then I start to get a little bit confused. But I thought this mystery was decent. It was easily followable, but
I agree. I fully,
really?
I'm on board with, I get why you would have objections to it being simple, because obviously it's a mystery. It can't
it's straightforward,
be very
it's
straightforward.
simple, but it's not dumb.
No,
I don't just want to give it the respect that it deserves.
I get that.
Yeah, simple, but
my thing is why I said it was simple is because it's very much like ring gets stolen, this guy gets killed, they have to find who killed him. That's the simplicity of what I'm talking about.
And it motivates all of this.
And then it's like bit, turn at the end, we find out the killer, the end.
Well, that's my thing. Okay. I think it could be a good mystery because you're right. They set it up like, hey, this guy got murdered, the ring is stolen, whatever. And then you have our boy being a detective.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I don't see it as like a super good mystery because for most of it, you're not getting actual clues or making really any progress. It's just bits. Sure. And it's almost like you could take the first 10 minutes and the last 10 minutes.
Yes, that would be what I would. Story. That would be what I call smart. Yeah. When I said that it was complicated, it's not complicated, but I just think that end reveal is clever.
Yeah, I do like the end reveal, but it's almost like I got all that information in the first 5 minutes. There was no unraveling of clues and the mystery. Like, the mystery did not progress whatsoever. Like, it was just random bits. And then the movie was just like, oh, here's what happened, by the way.
Right. It was one of those, like, at the very end, the dumb main character reveals that he's actually insanely smart.
Yeah, exactly.
Why. Yeah. No, but I do see what you're saying, though, of, like, yeah, it's a mystery. So, obviously, it's going to be a little more complicated than just, like, a normal comedy. Because they're putting... That is
fair. I'll give you that.
They're, spreading bits throughout. I mean, it's the whole movie, but you get these elements... albeit like a little more, vague than other mysteries.
Yeah.
Sure.
But like the little elements of like, okay, if you know who the killer is, then you can kind of pick up on it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like with just like little.
What I like about it is that like
too
I feel like I watch like adult mystery films, and it's just like, oh, they're the killer, and they're purposely trying to make you think that everybody's the killer.
There's a lot of
but the
red
fact that
herrings
this
and
movie
stuff.
like doesn't care who the killer is because
It doesn't at all.
it doesn't matter that it feels more clever.
Yeah, I agree. I can get on board with that. That
I
makes
see
sense.
your point. I just love mystery films like that. Like I
No,
like trying
sure,
to figure it out
sure.
as the movie
Knives
goes
Out,
and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
great example.
Yeah.
Knives Out,
Knives
even
Out is
Clue.
good, but if somebody said, "Hey, do you want to come over and watch Pink Panther or Murder on the Orient Express?" It's Pink Panther every time.
Well, but that's the
See, I
Batman
would
and
do
Robin.
Murder.
But that's the Batman and Robin issue that we
Oh, that
had.
is true.
I
We've
couldn't
been
agree.
down this rabbit hole
Yeah, I
before.
couldn't agree with that because it's like I ended up agreeing because it's like Batman and Robin is so bad, like objectively, it's
It's
so
probably one of the
bad.
worst movies ever covered on the show.
But
and yet.
Pelton argued that if you asked, like, would you rather come watch The Dark Knight or Batman and Robin
It's Batman and
together, it's
Robin.
Batman and Robin every time.
You
As
get
like a
high as
social,
You know what I mean?
as like a
Yeah,
social
yeah.
activity. I could see
Exactly.
Yeah, it's more of a
exactly.
fun movie to watch with people.
But no, I see what you're saying. I get that. Anyways, going into the plot of this wonderfully funny movie. Well, actually, we'll see.
It's a strong word, Nick.
We open with the chief officer of police. What's his name? Dreyfus?
that.
Dreyfus. Talking to camera about Inspector Jacques Clouseau. That's the main character.
It is.
His beginnings and how he was the worst cop ever. And in the very beginning, we kind of see him like commit manslaughter. Like he kills an old man in like the beginning.
We
He
don't.
does?
We don't know if he died.
Yeah, but like he like explodes. And,
Oh,
like,
yeah. No, he killed that guy. That guy is dead.
He's very dead.
The movie opens with
It's
murder.
really funny.
I just
to
think
see
it's so
somebody
funny to see
fixate
that.
on that one part of the film. It's like really funny just to hear that that's how it begins, and it really sets
Well,
a tone.
because it does. Because it's like you're like, okay, this guy is just like a dumb cop, and then you're like, oh, but he's also like a careless murderer.
Yeah.
But like it's never addressed because he's like this fun,
Whatever.
clumsy little
Yeah.
guy. It's just so funny because this has happened a couple times on Greenlit where the characters are like, you know, they're so stupid or like whatever, they're so like clumsy. But then you're just like, oh no, but they're like killing people.
They're straight up
just like
murdering
actually
people.
killing people.
Yeah.
And it makes me laugh every time, so that's why I included it.
Okay,
But
laughing
yes.
a little too hard over there.
Dude,
whatever.
it's great. Okay. So he tells the story of how Clouseau was needed on the day that the Pink Panther diamond was stolen at a soccer match between
From
France
Jason Statham.
and China.
Can we talk about the soccer match?
Yes,
Why does it
please.
look so good?
It looks so good.
It looks so good. And like there's actually like a legitimate like cool soccer move. Like I was
Yeah.
Googling it and then people like there was search results just for the part where the guy does like the flip
Seriously?
kick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess people wanted to just watch that part, which is crazy that we have
Fair.
like a decent soccer scene in this
Yeah.
film.
I was convinced
and it looks
was, like,
really
stock.
expensive.
Yeah, it looks super high
So
budget.
good.
It's like a real field. They filled it up. Like it looks fantastic.
I think
also-
it's a great setup too.
But
I
like,
think.
what camera were they using where the rest of the movie does not look like?
I know.
this?
What
Very
happened?
true.
And also, why is Jason Statham and Beyonce in the same scene?
And why is Jason Statham in this for like 30
For
seconds?
30 seconds.
I think
Like, why
that's
did they?
fascinating
Was he
that they
not
got him for
famous
that.
at that point?
I have no idea.
Like, I don't know
Probably
the
wasn't.
trajectory
It
of
was
his
probably
career.
like a favor.
Oh, that might have been it. Yeah, that might have been it.
Maybe,
You're
yeah.
probably right. But no, I remember watching this as a kid, growing up playing soccer my whole life. I think this also might have been why my brother and I watched this so many
Big
times.
soccer people.
Is you know how in like when you watch movies as a kid, you fixate on like certain scenes or like
This
just
is
thinking about
100%
nostalgia.
Because earlier
Yeah.
off air, I thought that the entirety of Batman Begins was him
Ex-
doing karate in the mountains.
Yeah. That's my point.
Because as
It's
a
like,
kid, that's all you remember for some
exactly.
reason.
So I think I remember this scene in particular, and then Clouseau, I think, getting hit by a car or something, or him like hitting someone with a car.
yeah.
Whatever it was that I remembered. It was like those two things, but
And that was
specifically the
it.
soccer scene. And then doing like the flip,
So
bicycle
you're one of
kick.
those people that just Googles
Exactly.
that scene.
So
Yeah,
I was
he's-
so
he's that.
into exactly because my brother and I both grew up like playing soccer, and we were super into this part. And it was so epically shot, and you were
For
like, "This is
some
like
reason,
the
yeah.
FIFA World Cup," and like this is incredible.
You could, I
Oh,
feel
it's
like you
great.
could, if you make it maybe a little more complicated, you could transplant that scene and put it into like a completely different tone.
Oh,
Film.
100%.
Exactly.
It's like a
100%.
high level profile person
Well,
dying and like
Mhm.
Yeah, we keep talking about Batman. It looks like The Dark Knight Rises. I know. Like, there's a whole football scene that looks just like this.
Yeah. But yeah, so there is a soccer match between France and China where the coach, Jason Statham,
For some reason,
wears
yes.
the Pink Panther diamond and is killed at the end of the game once their team wins, and the diamond is stolen. So he's killed, diamond is stolen.
Yes.
That's the big mystery of the film. Who killed this guy? And also, I guess, in the same question, who stole the diamond?
Yeah. Now I'll be honest with both of you, because again, remember I just watched the cartoon.
Mhm.
I was very confused at this point, and I was convinced I put on the wrong movie.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that it has nothing to do with the cartoon. Was
Nothing
the Pink
whatsoever.
Panther? Was the Pink Panther even a ring?
No.
No,
It's
it's
an
the
actual panther.
Yeah,
yes,
in
but
the
was there also
credits.
a ring?
No. They needed a way to like call it the Pink Panther because the character only shows up in the credits, like the opening credits. So it's like, yeah, you're gonna base a movie on a
We'll get into that.
on
So it's
like a
basically about
comic
the
book.
detective.
Yeah. And the detective is in the cartoon.
Yeah, so my memory of the cartoon is basically it's silent. I don't think there's any dialogue in it.
not at all.
And it's just a little like Pink Panther and like a cop, and the Pink Panther's always just like screwing with him.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's almost like Tom and Jerry.
I was gonna say Tom and Jerry, Looney Tunes. Yeah.
I think at the very least, I think I might have always assumed that there's like maybe like the Pink Panther's trying to steal a ring. I think I thought that the ring had something to do with it.
Nothing.
No.
That's crazy.
That's why I was like, wait, there's a football match, there's a soccer match, there's Jason Statham, Beyonce, and a ring, and there's murder, and I'm like, what is going on?
No, that's my point. It's
This is
like
crazy.
I don't know what happened where they were like, we're gonna adapt this famous cartoon, but the cartoon's gonna have nothing to do with the movie.
Nothing.
And that's exactly what it is they just needed a way to be like, yeah, this is a Pink Panther movie. So
Kind
we're gonna
of.
make a ring called the Pink Panther, and it's gonna be just about the inspector, and that's it.
I don't even know how they came up with that. I
Yeah,
will
I
say
don't
I'm
know either.
happy with where they settled.
Sure. Yeah.
It just
It's almost like they just want to make like a comedic, goofy like detective movie.
Yeah.
And then they just slapped an
They're like,
IP
hey, yeah,
on
what
it.
IPs do we have? Oh, Pink Panther, I guess. We'll just make like a ring or something. We'll call it a day.
Yeah. Or they were just like, hey, we have Steve Martin. What can we do?
Child
That too.
me
Yeah.
wanted to be proposed to with this ring. I won't lie.
I want to go get this ring for Maddie right now. Anyways, so the chief officer plots to set Clouseau up and try and find the murderer and the diamond because he knows Clouseau will run around in circles and not get anything done. So he can secretly get a group of the finest inspectors in France and actually finish the job and get the Medal of Honor.
You know,
That's driving him
I'm
throughout this
confused
entire
by that.
movie. Yeah.
Why doesn't he just have his group and not do anything with the inspector
I
whatsoever?
don't know if it's just like a scapegoat the right word or just a distraction.
Yeah,
so like
I
the
guess-
public can fixate on it and then he can come in and sweep in.
I think that's exactly it. Because that's what happens later in the movie is like Clouseau is set up to get arrested.
Yeah.
And then the Dreyfus comes in and basically saves the day. And he's like the big hero of that's his plot.
Maybe
of like,
he's trying to
he
avoid people asking him like, where are you guys
possibly.
He
Yeah.
just want to
yeah.
put his name forward until he knows who it is.
Yeah, and also, again, it's like the whole, he's coming in as a hero. It's not just like, oh, he's starting out as the guy who's going to solve the case. It's, oh, this guy failed. Who's going to be our savior? Then he
But,
comes
like,
in and he's like, oh my God, he's even better.
I wonder if it's just like a plot device because maybe
Yeah.
like when they originally wrote it, they're like, and then they put this dumb detective on the case. Maybe
Yeah.
they realized they're like, why would they
Why?
do that? And they
Right.
needed to make up a reason.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
Because if you think his plan makes no sense, because
Yeah.
from what I can tell, his initial plan was not to like ridicule the inspector. It was like a distraction, right?
Right.
So was his plan to publicly announce the inspector was investigating, and a couple weeks later be like, so actually I made a team behind his back and did it myself? Like that kind of looks wrong.
Yeah.
So
I don't
what
know.
was his? I don't understand.
I don't know. He just wanted the glory, I guess.
But that's
Yeah.
like the worst way to. You look
Yeah.
you look awful.
They needed to write the inspector into the movie.
I think
so-
they need to write the
They needed a
inspector in the
movie
movie.
because
That's
otherwise
exactly what
it's
it
just
is.
like a boring.
then you don't get a
detective
movie.
case. Yeah.
But yeah, so Clouseau would serve as the public figure on the case, like we said, while the head of police handles things secretly. And Dreyfus, who again is the head of police, assigns Panther, who, by the way, my favorite character in this movie.
Who is
I
this?
love him. The
his
sidekick to
sidekick.
Clouseau.
Oh right,
Yeah.
whose family's been in detective years.
Good
since
one.
the beginning
Yeah,
of
yeah,
detectives.
yeah.
yeah.
For what, 200 years
I think
or something
so,
like that?
And before that,
Farmers.
farmers.
Yeah,
Farmers.
it's the best. Okay, so Panther is assigned by Dreyfus to keep a close eye on Clouseau, and he becomes his right-hand man. And that's it. That's his thing.
Sure.
So Bizou, who is the first suspect, I don't know if I'm even pronouncing that right, but we'll go with that.
Sounds right.
The first suspect, who was a French soccer player who had an affair with the coach's girlfriend, who was Beyonce.
Right.
Right. But before he can really get accused, he gets shot in the face.
Yep.
And dies.
Shot and murdered.
In the occipital lobe.
Yeah.
Plot wise, it's very important where this guy gets shot.
Very
Even though
important.
it's still like a kid's movie, so when you see the body, there's no blood or anything.
No.
But
Right.
like where he gets shot is still very important.
It's critical to
Yeah.
understand this mystery.
Yes. And Clouseau eventually ends up at a casino where he runs into Agent 006. And I thought
yeah.
this bit was very fun.
Are you guys familiar? So that actor was actually rumored to play the next Bond at the
007,
time.
yeah.
So that was like a really funny thing.
I didn't
and
know that.
It kind of bums me out because wouldn't it be so cool if we got an actual Bond in there? Like if
it was like Daniel Craig
if it was
or something.
Daniel Craig, like how funny that would be. But now it's sort of just a weird product of its time of like what almost was.
I thought it was just like a weird joke. I
Yeah,
didn't even
and
say.
I also-
bet no one actually
I
knows.
can't
Yeah.
imagine people doing it now because I feel like the way that hype works and stuff. If somebody like put like Henry Cavill or someone that was rumored to be the next Bond into
Sure.
something,
Freak out.
everyone would be losing their
Yeah.
goddamn minds.
Yeah.
Whereas the fact that this guy just took the L and plays 006, where he's told that he's one step away from the big time
Yeah.
and never got
He
there,
never got it.
is crazy.
That's so
Oh,
sad.
this poor guy. But yeah, so they're in a casino and 006 stops a robbery from the gas masked bandits, which was very reminiscent for me of Home Alone and the Wet Bandits.
Oh, very
and the Sticky
true.
Bandits.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, and he ends up escaping before anyone can capture photos for the press. So by the time that they get there, it looks as if Clouseau saved the day, and he is presented with the Medal of Honor. Wow.
Yeah, which are a big
How
bad guy.
often are they giving the Medal of Honor?
That's
out,
a
by the
good
way?
point.
Apparently, it's like
One-
once a week
Yeah,
in this
'cause I was
movie.
gonna say it seems like Dreyfus's whole thing
Is
is
that
I want
what
the
he's
Medal of
also
Honor.
fighting for?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
he wants a Medal of Honor so
but
bad.
like what?
There was no vote that time.
I was gonna
He
say
just got
there's
it?
no. Yeah, it's like do they
guess.
give it out once a year and it just happened to be that time of year?
or it's just like for random good deeds. Those
Yeah.
give you the Medal of
I'm
Honor.
so
Yeah.
confused because it seems like Dreyfus is like this is the perfect time we're gonna get it this year. Like,
Yeah,
our
it's all
year.
built up.
But I don't exactly know.
Yeah,
It's kind of
interesting.
confusing.
I love like those cartoonish like key to the city, like all of that
Yeah,
stuff,
that
like the
rules.
Spider-Man ceremony, and I love all that.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that happens in real life, but I could not tell you.
No.
I think
If
I
it
have like
does.
4 or 5 Medal of Honors or
Okay,
something.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I
pretty
have
sure.
I have a key ring, mostly key to the city, one in my dorm.
I was gonna say I have a key to every city in the country.
And then also
So,
your dorm.
Yeah.
Yeah. All on the same little ring.
But that one's
Yeah.
lost, so I'm gonna have to pay $50. Anyways.
But you get access to bosses. That's all good.
Yeah, true.
I also like when I was like a kid because I didn't like grow up in a city, so I would see those key to the city things, and I assumed there's a big fence around every city, and it was just always locked.
Oh,
and
I
you had to,
definitely
use an
thought that
actual
it.
key.
I thought it had more significance, 100%.
Yeah, like it's an actual key
Yeah.
that opened up like to the city, and you're like, "This is
Right.
mine."
Yeah.
No, not at all.
No.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Very
It's okay.
disappointed by
It's
that.
all right. It happens. Yeah, so Clouseau and Ponton follow Beyonce. I'm just going to call her Beyonce.
Yeah, it's Beyonce.
Beyonce to New York City. And although Ponton suggests that she is a suspect because the coach cheated on her, Clouseau insists that she is innocent.
Even though she's going to like a
I
gem
believe
collector, isn't she?
actually
Yeah.
what he said is when they were trying to interrogate her, and she was like, "Can't you see that she is sexy?" And then that is
Oh,
totally
yeah,
why
yeah,
it
he did.
negates any suspicion whatsoever.
I was
Sure.
gonna say that, but and I wanted to steer. No, I'm glad you said it. Yeah, yes, that's exactly it.
Because it definitely, what she's doing is definitely untimely and very shady. But
Right,
because
right.
she is sexy,
1000%.
it doesn't
Absolutely.
matter.
Yeah, no.
That's what I mean. Like, okay,
There's no
that bit
logic to this movie.
Is kind of funny, but that's the thing. There's no progression of this mystery whatsoever. Because he just nothing happens. It's crazy.
It's great.
You
it is
might
crazy.
be able to take him out of the movie and nothing changes.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Well, I
no,
mean,
I still think that they wouldn't have figured it out, though. At least not through the course of what happens in this film.
Well, yeah, obviously everything would have been different.
It
He,
would have been
like,
more.
he lucked his way into it.
Yeah.
He did.
That I don't know if they would have done
Because
that.
like a little spoiler for the future of Pink Panther, but like the boss guy would have gone to arrest the wrong suspect, but Beyonce would have been shot.
Yeah.
So like it's obvious
National
she's not.
travesty, especially considering that absolute banger. Can we do a sidetrack about how good that song is? I'm
Beyonce's
devastated.
Oh, yeah.
Woman Like Me is so good. I've been saying this for years. Like my brother and I bring it up every once in a while. We'll go da-na-na in each other's faces.
incredible.
It's so good. I can't believe it's not on like Spotify, Apple Music, or anything because it's a good song. It's like orchestral, and I don't know.
It's
I think,
not on Spotify?
No, I don't think it's on anything.
Well, we're gonna change that.
We're
tonight.
changing that. We're gonna
You can
fix
put-
that,
You
Fallon.
can put that on.
We're
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
try our dang
If you rip it from the movie, I'm not gonna talk about this on the air. Yes, there are ways to do it that I don't know about.
Okay,
So-
I'm glad to hear that it'll be making an appearance though, because I've always loved that song, and I think that like it popped off so hard for no reason.
Yeah,
It does go very hard.
I was gonna say it would be also funny if someone randomly uploaded it, not me, but someone randomly uploaded it to Spotify and it just like popped off. Like
Here's
just
what I think.
everyone listened
Instead
to
of
it.
like our usual little like 10-second opener,
Yeah, yeah.
We just throw them that whole song to open this episode.
Oh, we should.
We'll see. If you're
That's
listening
kind
to
of
this
a good
episode of the
idea.
podcast, you'll know if we did it or not.
We probably won't.
We probably won't. We'll see what
Well,
happens.
you would think that it would be like the Pink Panther saxophone music, but it would
Right.
be really funny if it's just intercepted by that.
Oh, that's a good idea. But yes. So while all this is happening, Dreyfus determines that the killer is Chinese because the poison from the dart that killed the coach. I know this is very wordy. It's just so much going on.
Yeah, well, kind of.
The poison that from the dart that killed the coach was Chinese, like from China.
Yeah, which is such a strange connection.
Yeah,
but
very
okay.
And he eventually comes to the conclusion that a Chinese diplomat and attendants of the game poisoned the coach, and he ensures that the case will be closed soon enough. And he gives Clouseau a bag full of weapons, which I thought was so funny. Like when he shows up to
At
the
the
airport
airport?
and he just dumps out all of the weapons.
That's the obligatory time where I look at a movie and see if it came out pre or post 9/11. I won't lie to you. Whenever there's like an airport scene, that's the first thing I think of. I make jokes when I watch like 90s movies where they chase someone through the airport. I'm like, this is so pre 9/11.
Yeah.
And so I was just
Never
like,
happened.
where are we at right now? So the fact that he sent the dogs on him and everything makes sense.
It makes sense.
Yeah, it doesn't say
Yeah.
But yeah, so he gets a bag full of weapons at the airport, and he basically Dreyfus is trying to ruin Clouseau's reputation. This is his whole plot the whole time. And
Maybe.
I don't
know if it's the whole time, but
I think it is, but that's up to debate, I guess. He gets arrested? Yeah, right? He gets like taken down by the dogs, and then he's arrested.
he gets taken down. It's all over like newspapers and stuff.
Yeah,
all
that
this,
photo
like, big
also, by the way,
laughing stock.
lives in my head rent free of him with the
really?
dog. Yeah.
That's really funny.
It's incredible. And at home,
Is that why I
Clouseau-
saw a framed version of it in your dorm room freshman year?
What are you talking about? You mean right now?
Signed by Steve Martin?
You mean right now?
Uh,
No, but yeah, at home, Clouseau is looking at one of the photos of his arrest on the computer and notices something that sparks a thought, which we don't see because we see him call Panther and say that the murder is going to be there is going to be a murder at the presidential ball and try to kill Beyonce. So he's going to try and kill Beyonce.
Which,
That's
by
what's
the way, do we know
Devastating.
exactly what the presidential ball is or why Beyonce's performing or why she's going to get murdered
happening. It's a ball for the key to the city.
Well, in the story, she's also a famous
I
pop
don't know,
star,
man.
so it
True.
kind of makes sense.
It makes sense she's, I guess, performing that. That is true.
Don't they
But
just
what-
do presidential balls like
I guess so.
in New York City? I don't know,
that's the
man.
thing. Is it in New York City or is it back in
I think
France?
they're back in France.
So like I
it's back in
said,
France.
don't they do those in France?
Don't they do this with the key to the city?
Well, now that we're talking about the presidential ball, I also wanted to say this for like offices, casinos, and stuff. The production design popped off in this.
Oh, yeah.
It just didn't
I'll
need
give
to,
you
but
that.
it did.
Yeah,
even like
was-
his little car and stuff. Like they
I
did a good
agree.
job.
Yeah, there's just a
Yeah.
lot of aspects of this movie. Is watching it back is just like, wait, there's actually so much effort
This
in
kind
here.
of goes hard.
Yeah.
Needlessly, but it paid off.
Yeah. Also, I
Well,
know this isn't
in my
really
opinion.
the meaning of a presidential ball, but does France have a president?
I was gonna ask that, and I was
Is
too
that a
scared.
thing?
Google.
If you ask me, I would say prime minister, but I guess
That's what
not.
I thought.
Yeah.
Because
Think
it's
they do?
in Europe. I don't know.
Hang
I don't
on.
know how that stuff works.
Does
I'm not.
France have a president?
Yeah.
France has a semi-presidential system of government with
So-
both a president and a prime minister.
Oh yes, that is
Okay.
right.
Yeah, two.
I did know that. I was gonna say that would be really funny if you were like, yeah, they have a semi-president and a vice semi-president.
But not a main one.
No,
It's only semi-vice and then a king.
the king. Okay. Yes. So Panther and what's that guy's name? Clouseau. Panther and Clouseau sneak into the ball in a very funny fashion. They have like a one side
Oh
of
yeah,
the
with, like,
curtain
the
and
curtains or
and they
It's
flip.
so good.
funny. That
me,
was one of those things that
when
stuck out in my
they
mind.
so they get pulled. Can I sidetrack
Yeah,
this
please,
a little bit?
please,
When they
please.
get pulled over and they make up a lie that they're Beyonce's backup dancer.
Yeah.
Oh right.
And then they dance. This is probably my favorite part of the film.
Yeah.
And they just
Really?
like yes, because they just dance and try to like act like they're backup dancers, and it's just them just moving and grooving to Beyonce's music.
Yeah.
And it just like is just like a rapid cut of them doing it and just
It's like a
slapping
montage. It's
themselves
so
and
weird.
each other.
Yeah.
And I do this dance on occasion. Yeah, I do.
Oh sure.
I mean, yeah, I do too, but I
So
don't
do I.
like
I
it.
would
Yeah,
love
yeah,
to
yeah.
use it. I would love to use it to distract somebody someday. Like they do in the film.
I'll say this dance like montage, I guess, also goes on for like so long.
Which is why it's really funny to me.
Yeah.
Is that they like keep doing it and cutting between
It's so
shots, like
weird.
showing that they've done it for a very
It's
long
so
time.
out of nowhere,
and
too.
then by the end of it, they're like completely out of breath, and they
Mhm.
use that to their advantage too.
It's the best.
I want to know, like, canonically in this movie, how much time passed
Yeah.
of them dancing. Was it like 2
It's-
hours of this?
I think for the remainder of the song, at least.
Yeah.
At minimum.
Yeah.
yeah.
They do the entire set. Just
They
the whole
would,
thing,
yeah.
But yes, so after Dreyfus arrests his suspect, Clouseau and Ponton save Beyonce's life by capturing the true villain, which is the trainer who trains.
Trainer who trains.
Yes, who had gripes that the coach took all of the credit for all of his hard work in making the team a success. All of that just for a little bit of cred.
Yep.
That's crazy.
I know.
This I have no words for this.
Yeah.
But where is the ring? Did he steal
Where's the Pink
ring?
Panther ring?
No one
Nick?
actually knows. No. Clouseau then reveals that the Pink Panther diamond was not stolen, but hidden away in Beyonce's purse, as it was an engagement ring from the coach that she didn't want to reveal that she had because it would have put her in the spotlight as a suspect.
Yes.
Super cool and very fun.
I said this is the most obvious thing ever.
Yeah.
Also, because the movie introduces not a ton of characters. So
Yeah.
I saw the trainer who trains twice. He was in 2 scenes. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, well he's obviously one of the bad guys.
Has to be.
Just by logic, with how mystery movies
Child
work.
me blown away. I would
Oh
say.
no, adult me blown away. If I didn't
mention just enough, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like if they said that the guy, like the recording artist in the studio, was the murderer.
Yeah.
You know, like he's
It would've made
just in
sense.
there
Yeah,
enough.
if he had like a second scene, I'm like, it's him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've watched too much Psych. That's all this
Well,
is.
sure. Yeah.
I've seen too much of this kind of thing. And then Beyonce literally goes to a gem guy in New York City.
Yeah.
It's what?
Yeah.
I think that's purposefully. It's just supposed to be super shady. I think.
Yeah, for
Right,
sure.
right. And also, it's a mystery film, but it's also made for kids. So I get
That is true. That
it's
is
the
true.
little
Yeah,
hints
yeah.
throughout. Like it's obviously obvious to us and adults, but to
I'm
kids,
sure, yeah,
like
I'm
for
sure
me,
as a kid, the trainer's pretty cool.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
that it was the trainer. And I'm not saying what age I was when I had no idea, but it was when I was 21.
I had figured.
But yeah, so
24.
the movie ends with Clouseau winning the Medal of Honor.
Oh yeah.
he gets
Of
he
course.
gets that, and then it officially ends with a little bit where Clouseau closes the door of his car on Dreyfus, drags him along, and eventually, when he's in the hospital, releases his hospital bed into a tumble, like down like the stairs or something or whatever. And then he like gets launched off of like a 3-story building into
he
the
falls
water.
out a window, right?
And
I
he
believe this
drowns
is the
and dies?
only part
That's
of
what
the
I'm
film
saying.
that would be improved if Dreyfus was Kevin Spacey.
Yeah.
Yeah. If he drowned and died.
And like the old man in the
Maybe.
beginning, he explodes, and then the movie ends. But yes, all is well in the world, and that is the Pink Panther. Wow, what a movie.
What a
Final
movie.
thoughts, Fallon, as our special guest.
Well,
Do you
can I
want to
just
start?
briefly interject?
Yeah.
We didn't talk about Nicole, his love interest, at all.
Oh, that is.
Oh,
His
yeah.
assistant.
I feel
There's
like
a
this
lot of
happened a
weird
couple
sex
times.
jokes in
where-
this.
Yes, that was just something I wanted to bring
Yeah.
up of the fact that of towing the line of
Yeah,
like
sure.
PG,
Oh,
not PG.
Right,
For
right.
sure.
Yeah,
X.
those were definitely like the main parts of just them being caught in situations where like it looks like they're in the middle of doing the deed.
Yeah,
and they're
it looks
just,
real
Yeah.
bad.
So Fallon, what are your final thoughts? Did this hold up for you from watching it as a kid? How did you feel upon rewatching this as an adult? Better,
Okay.
worse, middle?
I would say like probably the same. I think that it holds up. There's charm to it to me. If I
okay.
can watch something and still have fun, like I've rewatched like children's movies and be like, oh, I'm bored. But I think
yeah.
that this was just enough. I miss a tight 90-minute movie. I do.
After Narnia, I agree.
Yeah, I would say in closing, I would say justice is justice and flance is flance, and it still is.
Nice.
And you're
nice.
never welcome back on the show.
Yeah. Pelton, final thoughts?
Okay.
Wait, can I guess?
Yes.
You hated this movie.
I didn't hate it.
Okay.
There were a couple bits I thought were funny.
Sure.
It's just this.
Watching it for the first time as an adult, though, like
I
you
know.
don't
I
have
feel like
a nostalgia
season
factor.
2.
I don't have any
I
nostalgia
feel like
for it
season
whatsoever.
2, were a lot of movies that you haven't seen.
Yeah, it's mostly
be
stuff
fair.
that I
Yeah.
haven't grown up with, so
Yeah.
I've never seen
But
this.
it's understandable.
Yeah, again, there were a couple of things that made me laugh. I'm like, okay, like that's kind of clever. But I think as someone who only has nostalgia from the show, and this has so nothing to do with it, to the point there's no Pink Panther in it, which I
That's
didn't
true.
know that going in. I kept waiting
Yeah.
for the Pink Panther to show up, and he just never did.
I want us, and don't quote me on this because I could be wrong. We might be finding out this summer.
If he's in the sequel,
Yeah, spoiler alert.
Oh,
We're not going to get into that.
interesting.
But I want to say that the Pink Panther character shows up briefly. I have a
It's like a
weird
cameo
memory
or
that he's
something.
in a movie that's live action, but he's an animated.
He's like-
I
yeah.
did read that they were considering him being like Dreyfus's like hallucination in parts of this
Oh,
film,
that might be
and they
it.
didn't go through with
I don't
it.
remember.
They
I do
should've.
have a vague memory of someone looking out a window and at a tree and then seeing the Pink Panther there.
Okay.
So I could be wrong, but we will see.
We'll circle back to that.
We will see eventually.
Yeah, so someone who has no nostalgia behind this whatsoever.
Yeah.
And again, who's also like a fan of the original show. I don't know why this is even called the Pink Panther, to be honest. This has like no connection whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't know.
In a way, maybe, I don't know, but in a way you could take like a cynical approach of being like, well, what IP do we have? We'll just slap it on.
Sure.
So I didn't hate it. I'm not a huge fan of it. And it's kind of this weird, like, why did this even get made kind of thing? Is this really just like a money thing?
Yeah.
It's the whole thing's a little strange with this movie. I'm not a big fan.
That's fair.
Sorry,
so
Fallon.
for me, kind of
you.
going into final thoughts, I'm kind of on the same path as you. And I kind of mentioned in the beginning where I don't really know how I feel about this watching it as an adult. Because the thing for me that's different from you, Pelton, is I do have the nostalgia factor.
True.
So I think that's really what's driving my love for this movie is I really like the bits, some of the bits throughout. I think it's consistently fairly funny. I think I think it's just because Steve Martin is who he is that I'm like this, even though like the bit is bad, like he makes it great. I don't know. That's just my personal take.
That's fair. Yeah.
And I thought that it was, obviously funny in some parts. I thought it fell fairly flat, but there were pretty heavy nostalgic moments that I found myself loving and enjoying myself throughout the movie.
That's always how it works.
Which is great. But yeah, I thought it was okay. I thought it wasn't bad.
Okay.
Again, charming moments, fell flat kind of overall.
Yeah. I will say also about Steve Martin, like specifically, like his performance. I think his first scene when he came on with that accent, like the whole thing, I was like, oh no. Like I was the
opposite. I was like, heck
I was like, this is gonna be like another Fred. Like I was so nervous.
Like, this rules.
But I genuinely think he has a couple moments where I think it's annoying, but a couple moments where I think it's funny. I think overall he does like a good job of like towing that line.
Yeah.
Of like it's not too much. You know what I mean? Like it's passable. Like you can watch it and not be like annoyed and miserable the whole time.
Right. And by the end you're just going all right, and one final thought on the Pink Panther.
I can't believe this got greenlit.
Oh my God, that felt
I've been waiting for you to say those words for a year.
Thank you, Fallon, for being on the show. This has been an amazing time with you. Great movie to pick. This has been super fun. I've actually been meaning to add this one to the list, so I'm glad that we got to cover it. And yes, thank you all for listening. Tune in next week for very special episode. It is our Christmas episode for How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Jim Carrey's version.
Yeah, Jim Carrey's version.
Not the great animated one.
I am very scared.
70s, not the Benedict Cumberbatch.
We're not going to have a guest on it. We're going to do a classic holiday episode with just the two of us.
Old school Greenlit.
Exactly. Stay tuned for that. And yeah, thank you all for listening. Bye.
Bye.